Hello, thanks for being with us on Talking Europe on France 24 with me, Catherine Nicholson. Today we are looking at Hungary. It is a country whose current Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been accused of degrading rule of law, limiting media freedom and taking away rights of minorities. Yet, Mr. Orban and his Fidesz party were re-elected 4 years ago with 2/3 of the seat in the Hungarian parliament, while a disparate array of opposition parties shared the rest between them. Well, for the next election in spring 2022, however, the picture is different. All the opposition parties have joined together for the very first time to jointly nominate one united candidate. Péter Márki-Zay is a relative political novice. He's mayor of a medium-sized town, but has only been in that job for a couple of years, working previously in marketing and other non-political jobs in Hungary, in the US and in Canada. Well, as he gears up for the election, Péter Márki-Zay is our guest today on Talking Europe. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Márki-Zay.
Thank you very much for having me.
A pretty basic question to start us off, I think. Why do you want to be Prime Minister and what would you do differently in Hungary?
Hungary is in a very bad shape, not only democracy, not only healthcare, for example, or education. Corruption is rampant. It's a huge problem everywhere. The family and friends of Orban, Mr. Orban, is getting richer. The people are getting poorer. And Hungary became not only the second poorest country in Europe, but also the country with the highest number of people living under the European poverty threshold. So besides corruption, healthcare, people are dying in the highest number in COVID right now, I guess, in the world for the first 6 months of this year. Hungary was leading the charts in COVID deaths, proportionate to population, obviously. So there are serious troubles in Hungary, yet Orban and his friends are not only getting richer, but are grabbing power and not limiting media freedom. So there's so many problems. We need to change that, and I will do anything necessary in order to get rid of corrupt dictators in Hungary.
Now, Mr. Orban, as you say, has been in Hungarian politics for a long time. Your political experience and your record, however, are limited and not much for Hungarians to look at, to judge on your record. Why should they vote for you?
Well, there's two reasons, I guess. One is a very obvious one. There was a primary election which we held in September and October in 2 rounds, and I won. As a surprise candidate, or a surprise winner at least, I won the primaries. So they pretty much have no other choice because of the legitimacy that these 371,000 votes give me as a candidate. But I already have proven myself to work and cooperate with any parties who are to defeat Orban, with any candidate, any by-elections, national elections, municipality elections in the last 4 years. I have always been campaigning as a very well-known figure in Hungarian politics. Also, I have proven myself as a mayor. I already fulfilled 75% of my promises in my own town. So I only make promises that I can keep, and I do keep them. For example, we have free public transit in my city now, which we introduced earlier this year. This was one of my campaign promises 2 years ago. But I could go on and on in recycling, in Roma integration, helping education, changing many aspects of life and developing the city. And usually I say that the main reason why we succeed is that we are smarter and not corrupt.
You yourself used to vote for Fidesz, Viktor Orban's party. Why did you stop voting for him?
Well, I still believe that in the last 30 years, the best government in Hungary was Orban's first government. But the most catastrophic governments were also Mr. Orban's governments in the last 12 years. So obviously, when you look at, I'm as a conservative, as a Christian Democrat, if you want, I did vote for Fidesz as long as they were considered, and they also considered themselves a pro-Europe, anti-Putin conservative party. When they turned out to be a very corrupt, anti-EU, pro-Putin party, obviously I couldn't keep voting for them.
Well, currently, Fidesz, as I said, holds about 2/3 of the seats in the National Assembly. How is it possible that your opposition coalition can go from their current low number of seats to overall control?
The reason why Orban can have a two-thirds majority in the parliament with less than 50% of the votes is because they changed the entire electoral system, not only gerrymandering, not only the media power, but they have the almost exclusive power, not only limiting financial opportunities for the opposition, but also a single round electoral system, which was a change from the previous two-round electoral system, a multi-party system. Now, this is a two-party system. If the opposition does not unite and doesn't have one single candidate in each district, and rally behind one single party list as a concentration list, we would have no chance of defeating Fidesz, but now we do.
It is a disparate set of political parties in this united opposition, all the way from far left to very conservative, Greens in there as well. Can your political backers really keep it together to see this through?
There is such a pressure from the electorate to keep this coalition together and defeat Orban, because now everybody puts anything else aside. This is our main goal, just to liberate the country from corruption, from betrayal, betraying NATO and the European Union in favor of the communist China and Putin. Having all these hugely corrupt businesses, build a highway construction. Why does it cost 4 times more north of the border in Hungary than south of the border in Croatia? Same thing with the Belgrade-Budapest railway, which is built only in Chinese interest, but Hungarian taxpayers will have to repay the loan. And it is also costing like 4 million pounds, British pounds, more per kilometer than the same railway project in Serbia.
I just want to focus on one specific party that's backing you, Jobbik. In the last decade, it's made racist, anti-Semitic comments. It's described Roma people as deviants. You told me earlier that you're proud of having improved Roma integration in your town of Hódmezővásárhely. They say they're now mainstream, but is that really enough for you to take the backing of this party, given their record over so many years?
First of all, we have no choice. We have other issues on the left as well. They had some very obvious corruption practices, but they participated together with Fidesz in such rightly criticized actions. So, it's not about a value community. This is about an interest-based community. So this coalition has to stick together if we want to defeat Orban. But again, I'm not going to defend any racist or homophobic remarks and acts what they did in the past. The good thing is that they themselves, they changed, and they are now very openly, being very supportive to all minorities, to the European Union. They were also burning European flag in the past. But now they changed. Not all the people changed, I guess, but at least they changed people too. So many of these openly racist people, they already left, and as far as I know, all of them already left Jobbik, and they are now serving Fidesz. So this is a huge change now. The only racist in Hungary is actually Fidesz.
You said that there's pressure from the electorate to have this kind of united opposition, and you mentioned a high cost of living in Hungary, for example. The current Hungarian government of Viktor Orban, though, points to strong economic growth forecasts. The European Commission forecasting more than 7% GDP growth this year, more than 5% next year. They also point to low unemployment, around 4% currently. Viktor Orban's government says these are signs they are leading the country well. We know people respond to that kind of thing.
Yes, Orban does have this argument, of course. And if you will look at what he is doing now as a populist leader before elections, he's giving a 13th-month pension regularly from now on. So reintroduce this measure, what was stopped in 2009, actually. So they increased minimum wage by 30%, I guess, to still the lowest in the region, but at least it's a huge increase. Also, they gave a tax credit for young workers. So now there's a huge package of very popular and very populist measures, which means that they are afraid of losing the election because they haven't done this in the past 12 years. This is something new. Now they are doing it because they are afraid that they will lose the election. At the same time, we also have to say that this doesn't mean even GDP growth doesn't mean that the country is in good shape. With the inflation, if you take inflation into account, then real net GDP growth is about half of the figures what you mentioned. Also, like I said, there's a huge inequality in Hungary. Orban's family and friends are getting extremely rich, but 74% of our population lives under the European poverty threshold. So yes, of course, they do very popular moves, populist moves, but then they take it back with inflation, and corruption is still taking its charge.
Just time for a very brief word about LGBT rights, which are a huge issue in Hungary. You're a self-proclaimed staunch conservative, a Roman Catholic. Can you take other staunch traditionalist Catholics along with you? You have said that you're very in favour of equality for LGBT people and other minorities.
I think these are human rights, basic human rights. And yes, we have to accept that. The good thing is that another conservative candidate in this primary election, Mr. Pálinkas, the former chair of the Academy of Science, a former minister in Fidesz government, he also openly suggested this, giving the same rights to same-sex couples. So this is not an extreme thing, so even in Catholic circles. Of course, as a Catholic, I stick to the rules of the Catholic Church in my private life. But the same way as I oppose abortion and I even oppose divorce as a Catholic, but I would never contemplate banning divorce, for example. So it's two very separate things. Religion and state must be separated. We believe in a secular society, and a secular state must give equal rights to all of its citizens.
Péter Márki-Zay, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much for being with us on Talking Europe. Thanks to you for watching as well. See you soon here on France 24.